New twist in an old murder case.
Scott Austic was destined to be just another bloke in jail for murder, and his occasional lover Stacey Thorne was doomed to be just another domestic violence victim. But for this,
looking at what we found, it almost certainly implicates that it had been planted into the scene.
That was Channel 7's 2018 documentary Framed. As the title hinted, not so subtly, a few people thought Scott had been fitted up for Stacey's horrific death back in 2007.
No fingerprints, no DNA linking the knife to Mr. Austic.
There is also evidence, really strong evidence, of another suspect.
She was pregnant with Austic's child when she was stabbed more than 24 times in the bedroom of her flat in Boddington just before Christmas of that year. Scott had pleaded with her to have an abortion, but she refused, which police thought was motive for the killing. The story goes the cops couldn't quite make the case stack up legitimately, so they planted 3 key pieces of evidence: a blood-stained cigarette packet, a blood-caked knife, and a can of bourbon and coke with Scott's DNA on it. The packet of Winfield Blues, which had been smeared with blood and seen on a table out the back of Austic's house, was not in the original forensics video. The knife covered in Stacey's blood that the cops stumbled on was in a field that had previously been searched thoroughly by the SES, and they found nada.
It was said by them to have been just casually discovered, as they stood out there having a smoke.
And the can of booze that put Austic at the scene of the crime at the right time of night was not in the original forensics photo suite.
Sounds pretty damning.
And it's not just you that thinks that. 12 years after Scott was sentenced to 25 years jail, the Court of Appeal found there was compelling, cogent and plausible evidence that he'd been the victim of police corruption. In November 2020, he walked out of prison a free man after being found not guilty at a retrial. Everyone thought it was done and dusted, but the Corruption and Crime Commission has just written a letter to Austic's lawyers saying no action will be taken against the cops involved.
So the cops didn't fit him up?
Well, that appears to be the conclusion reached by the CCC. We won't get official confirmation until that report is tabled in State Parliament in a couple of weeks. But it's looking like the Corruption and Crime Commission has reached a very different conclusion to the Supreme Court. And that's a big headache for this guy. As Attorney General, it's John Quigley's job to advise State Cabinet about whether Austic should get an ex gratia payment for wrongful imprisonment. It'll be big bucks. Andrew Mallard got $3.2 million for his 12 years in jail, and Austic's chasing at least that much. John's got to weigh up the opinion of some of WA's most respected judges who found Austic probably was the victim of seriously dodgy police work with the opinion of WA's top anti-corruption body, which according to the letter sent to Austic's lawyer, appears to have found he probably wasn't.
Tough spot for Quigley.
Yes, but not as tough a spot as this bloke's in. Stacey Thorne has been dead for 16 years and WA Police Commissioner Cole Blanche doesn't have anyone in handcuffs and doesn't seem to be searching too hard.
A much less important search is finally over at the AFL.
Yeah, an intensive global hunt for a new chief executive of our richest and most popular sporting code has just come to an end.
There we go. I got it. I think I got it. Is it him? Unreal.
Had the entire country hanging for a year wondering which international sporting executive would be the new custodian of the Australian Football League in place of Gillon McLachlan. Turns out, conveniently, that the best person in the whole world for that job just happened to be sitting in an office down the hall from Gillon McLachlan.
I've been sitting here the whole time.
His name's Andrew Dillon.
Replacing a Gill with a Dill.
A very pleasing development for headline writers around Australia.
You're going to have fun.
The new boss of the AFL takes over the reins on October 2, just after the grand final concludes, and most likely at least a month after the season ends for West Coast.
108 points the margin as the West Coast Eagles season from hell drops further.
And Fremantle.
And they put the Dockers to the sword.
Big job for Andrew.
Very big shoes to fill. Just look at the numbers. Gil McLachlan has been in the job since 2014 when he took over from Andrew Demetrio. In that year, the AFL posted revenue of $528 million. 8 years later, it was just shy of $1 billion. Profits up ninefold to $113 million. The value of the AFL's assets jumped from $186 million to $750 million, and the total number of club members went from 800,000 to 1.2 million. By most metrics, the AFL has outperformed the majority of ASX 200 companies.
Show me the money.
The good news for newbie boss Andrew is this is a code where even if you do things up, you can still enjoy a long and lucrative career. Exhibit A to that point is Bunbury boy done good, Trevor Nisbett. When I say Bunbury boy done good, I really mean Bunbury boy done good, bad, terrible, and catastrophically f***ed. But Teflon Trev's still standing.
For now.
He's like a cockroach, you know? He'll outlive us all.
I'm Ben Harvey. For more Up Late, click the subscribe button below.